Hi there, welcome to No Nonsense Whiskey. My name is VinPF, and on today's episode we've got something what I would consider a little bit special. This right here, as we'll get into in a moment, is actually an independently bottled Highland Park 21. Now this one came my way through a good friend of mine who actually runs his own YouTube channel called Shep Goes Racing. So if you're into kind of racing, racing games, real life racing, and kind of racing cars in general, then go and check out his channel. He's only just started, so it'd be good to show a little bit of support for that. Now this here came my way because of him, because he knows I like Highland Park. But this is an interesting one because it's a brand that I actually haven't heard of before, the Montgomeries, and it's a brand that you can't really find out too much information online. Like, for instance, this independent bottler doesn't have a website specifically to this brand, but if you dig a bit deeper, you'll find out that this is actually owned by Angus Dundee Distillers, and they own Tomintoul and Glencadam distilleries, as well as a bunch of other whiskey brands. Now, before we get into this one specifically, I do want to say that normally when I cover stuff like this, it's always a bit of a it's a cool video to make and hopefully to watch as well. But I don't often get to say that this one is still in stock. But this one is still in stock. There's a link down below for the Master of Malts. It's an affiliate link, so it does help out the channel if you do go and purchase through that. But go and check out that link if you're interested. And this is 150 quid, just shy of, I think it's like 147 on Master of Malt right now. That means that before we even get into this whiskey, you know that you can get hold of a 21-year-old Highland Park. And bear in mind as well, this is a single cask Highland Park that you can get like this, a 21-year-old for 150 quid. Now the current 21-year-old is like 200 or something pounds. It's the kind of new shape bottle, and the old style 21 is just ludicrously expensive. It's actually a little bit of a shame that we can't compare this one to the normal 21. Or can we? I do have a 21 here. This is actually a really old bottle of mine now. I've had this sat around for a while and I've been waiting for an excuse to kill this off. I'm actually waiting to meet up with a good friend of mine, the same one who bought me this, so that we can kill this off together. So hopefully COVID will disappear at some point and maybe I'll get to destroy this off. But let's pour out a little bit of this so it can sit and rest while we're talking about the other, because whiskies like this really deserve a bit of time in the glass. We're not doing a direct comparison of these two because, as we'll get into, they are very different whiskies. Let's pop that below there. And we'll pop this around here to air out a little while we're talking about this one. Now, let's get into the details of this. So this is a Montgomerie's single cask whiskey. It is a Highland Park 1994, which means it was distilled in 8th of February 1994, which is pretty cool, and bottled in February 2015, no date. And this one is bottle number 43, cask number 33. So if you are looking to replicate this and purchase a bottle of this, then make sure you get the cask number 33 to get the same experience, because I believe there are other 1994s, but not that cask. Not sure. Another key piece of information is 46%, and although it doesn't say it on the front, it does say it on the back. There you go. No chill filtration and colour free. Lovely job. Well, that's enough talking about the actual bottle itself. Let's get into the whiskey and see what we've got in the glass. So we're presented with natural colour, so I don't mind talking about that. For 21 years, at a best guess, I would say that was probably second fill. You'd probably just call it refill, right? So any of those others, other than first fill, is just called refill. It's definitely a refill. It would pick up a lot more colour than that, I think, is my opinion. But it's definitely an ex-bourbon barrel. Obviously, Highland Park themselves are well known for mixtures of ex-bourbon barrels and ex-sherry casks. This doesn't look like it's got any sherry in it at all, and as we'll get into the tasty notes, I don't think it tastes like it either. So I think we're probably looking at an ex-bourbon Highland Park, which actually makes it more interesting in my eyes, because you don't really see many Highland Parks without that sherry influence. Let's get onto the nose then. Now, this has been sat out for a while. It is a very, very subtle nose. Very light. Lots of vanillas, lots of honeys. That kind of heathery, characteristic note of Highland Park. And a little bit of kind of like lemony citrus to it as well. Nice nose. It's one that you could dig deep on. because when you first stick your nose in there, you're not going to pick up too much, I don't think. Let's get onto the palate. And this is like a whole mouth experience. It starts out again quite light, more of those vanillas and honeys coming through, but then out of nowhere a huge spiciness kicks in. We're talking more of a kind of black peppery spice, kind of cracked pepper spice, that kind of thing. A little bit of the oak influences coming through. It's not overpowering. It isn't like really tannic and leathery like you do get on some oaky old whiskies, but very light on those. Again, leading me to think that it's probably a refill cask. And then finally, a little bit of that heatheriness coming through as well. Let's have another little sip. The finish is huge, really long, really spicy, really quite flavourful. Now, something I don't do very often, because I don't really have the bottles around. I know a lot of people like to keep bottles in a massive collection, but for me, I like a bit of a turnaround, so I tend to kind of get rid of my bottles pretty quickly. Apart from the really expensive ones, obviously. So let's try the original Highland Park 21. I think original is probably not even the right word for it, because it's been changed so many times over the years. I think this has been kind of, I don't know which version of this is. In any case, I picked this one up a good few years ago now for £100, which is utterly ridiculous. You know, you wouldn't see it for that anymore, especially not this version. This is the 74.5% version. Looking forward to finishing that. Let's get a... Oh, I've done the glass already. It's right there. I was just going to say let's get a glass, but never mind. Now, as you can see, look, the colour on that, this is quite heavily sherry cask influence. I don't know... This is not a single cask whiskey. This is not even two casks. This is a blend of all different casks from the distillery. So, you know, it is what it is. If you want to see my full tasting notes, I'm not going to do that here today. If you want to see my full tasting notes, make sure you go and check out my actual review of this bottle. But yeah, let's check it out. Now for me, right next to this, I haven't cleansed because what I want to do is see if this one cancels out those bourbon notes and see what this picks up. And quite rightly, there's way more sherry notes to this, all those kind of dried fruits that you would associate with a sherry cask. Oh yeah. Now, for me, this is one of the best whiskies I've ever tried, I have to say. Clearly a lot of extra sherry influence in that, but not so overpowering. One of the interesting things I get from this is a little bit of apricot, where obviously I'm not picking that up on this. And I have to say they are very different beasts. Gun to head, I would probably say that I do prefer my Highland Park 21 official bottling, but for the difference in price right now, which I don't even know what this would be right now, I have to say it, but last time I checked it was well into the 300s. I'd have this every day of the week because it's a really, really, really tasty whiskey, and this just isn't worth that sort of money. You know, worth is in the eye of the beholder, of course, but to be able to get that whiskey experience, that drinking experience, and not that investor experience, the prices are just silly money. And this is a great affordable way of trying something like a Highland Park 21 in a much easier to afford setting. Of course, it's still very expensive and there's no denying that. I have to say, I don't think I would have purchased this myself, so I'm very grateful to my friend for dropping this to me. And it's just a really good whiskey. So yeah, if you're interested in that, make sure you go and check this one out in the link below. Also, I'd like to know if you've tried the newer Highland Park 21. I haven't dabbled myself. That's something like 200 quid. And I don't know if it's any different to this at all. I imagine they've probably made some slight changes to make it cheaper for themselves so they can make a bit more money. But that's the cynic in me. Let me know if you've tried that new Highland Park 21 and I'll see what it's like in the comments.